Hello, it's top of the hour and you're watching the morning live edition of VTV News. My name is Ling Hung and here come our top stories. Vietnam's Foreign Ministry spokesman expressed Vietnam opposition to Chinese civilian aircraft landing in Vietnam's Spratly Islands. Australian police began investigations into the sale of fake flights to hundreds of Vietnamese students in the country. VTV reporter interviews president of the Vietnam-Cambodia Friendship Association to learn about Cambodian success in fighting Cambodia, Vietnam's help. On January 6th, two large Chinese civilian aircraft landed at Ferry Cross Reef in Vietnam's Spratly Islands. On January 7th, Vietnam's Foreign Ministry spokesman Lê Hải Bình has once again expressed Vietnam's strong opposition to China's actions. Spokesman Lê Hải Bình said the action has seriously violated Vietnam's sovereignty, threatening peace, stability in the region, as well as maritime and aviation security, safety, and freedom in the EC. Vietnam resolutely asked China to immediately stop similar actions that violate Vietnam's sovereignty over Trường Sa archipelago, respect relevant international law, and refrain from escalating and complicating the dispute. Being said, Vietnam will firmly safeguard its sovereignty, sovereign and jurisdictional rights in the EC by peaceful means in accordance with the United Nations Charter and international law, he added. International Civil Aviation Organization Asia Pacific addressing Chinese flights in the EC. According to radar data recorded at a long-distance control center in Ho Chi Minh City, the flights operating at a higher altitude than the minimum level allowed by airlines. The flights were not registered with Vietnamese Air Traffic Control and did not establish voice communication with the Ho Chi Minh City Control Center. Operation of these aircrafts are possibly violating the ICAO regulations and seriously affecting flight operations in the region, according to the Vietnam Aviation Department. Now, police in the Australian state of New South Wales began investigations on January 7th into the sale of fake flights to hundreds of Vietnamese students in the country. Initial investigations indicate that a Vietnamese individual or a group of Vietnamese people in Australia are responsible. More than 300 Vietnamese students in Sydney and Melbourne reported that they believe they had been cheated of over $350,000 by a Facebook account in the name of Vichen. Now, domestic airlines have been urged to cut fares and to provide more promotional discounts as jet fuel prices have dropped. At a conference reviewing the aviation industry's activities over the past year, which drew the participation of the country's large carriers, Minister of Transport Đinh La Thăng recommended lower fares for passengers.
Jet A1, the most common jet fuel, now averages just $47 a barrel, down more than 40% from a year previous. However, there have not been any changes in airfares.
In the market-driven economy, large enterprises are under no obligation to pass on reduced airfares to customers. The situation is affecting customers. They should be enjoying lower airfares.
With fuel accounting for 40% of airline operating costs, airline operators should in theory be able to offer discounts. However, some carriers argued that they faced larger expenses from aircraft rental and purchases and foreign employee salaries due to stronger dollar. Fuel import tariffs and environmental fees have also been raised by 7 to 10%.
We are considering price cuts to fares. Domestic carriers apply flexible pricing policy to offset risk, and we are offering more promotional programs for customers instead of cheaper prices.
But despite the claims of higher operating costs, airlines raked in a 44% increase in revenue and profit targets in 2015. In documents sent to Vietnam Airlines, the Transport Minister has called for lower airfares to match the sharp decline in fuel costs.
Reducing airfares does not simply mean discounting the price. We also offer customers big promotions, different types of price bands. After receiving the minister's document, we'll research possible price changes and suggest domestic carriers can reduce fares.
Based on their current prices, fuel costs would only account for 26% of total operating costs. The Civil Aviation Authority has required air carriers to develop plans to reduce fares and submit their proposals to the authority no later than January the 10th.
In other news, a conference on reviewing the implementation of consumer rights protection from 2011 to 2015 period was held by the Ministry of Industry and Trade in Hanoi yesterday. The event drew the participation of representatives from consumer protection associations across provinces nationwide.
At the conference, Deputy Minister of Industry and Trade Trần Quốc Khánh said the protection of consumers' rights under the Law on Protection of Consumer Rights and other relevant guidelines have achieved many positive and remarkable results in the past 5 years. However, the actual protection of consumer interests has remained still limited. The coordination and implementation of laws on protecting consumer rights still face various difficulties. According to participants, in the near future, the Ministry of Industry and Trade and People's Committees nationwide should strengthen collaboration with consumer organizations and businesses in organizing more activities to better enhance consumer rights.
Vietnam's inflation rate is likely to rise again in the second half of this year, thus requiring tighter monetary control. This is forecast by HSBC Vietnam in its latest macroeconomic report. The report states that Vietnam's economy has gained significant achievement over the past year, with GDP rising to 6.7%, the highest recorded in the past 8 years. The inflation rate dropped to 0.6% last year, however. In the first and second half of this year, the figure is forecast to rise to 3% and 5.1% respectively, due to stable global oil prices and rises in food prices. HSBC experts also suggest that if inflation rises to forecasted levels, tighter monetary control should be implemented by the State Bank of Vietnam in the second half of this year. Toward the end of 2015, a series of credit institutions were revoked of their licenses and forced to close. The State Bank of Vietnam has announced that more banks will close in the coming time because the country should have only 15 to 20 banks.
Late last year, Viet Thai Bank and Rubber Financial Company had their licenses revoked and operation annulled. A total of 21 weak credit institutions have undergone such scrutiny.
Vietnam's bank restructuring efforts have achieved two targets. First, it has avoided the ruin of the commercial banking system, especially in late 2011 and early 2012, when it was in critical danger. Second, it has solved the liquidity issue, and 10 weak banks would merge into one through M&As and nationalization.
Economists have also pointed out that the restructuring of banks will affect interest groups, which will generate strong opposition.
People behind the banks have strong financial power and connections. Despite this, the restructuring of banks has continued fiercely.
The State Bank of Vietnam is determined in restructuring the country's banking system, and more banks will be forced to close or merge with others.
We should not waste time with weak banks. Bankruptcy laws and measures that the central bank has taken should continue. Measures will accelerate the streamlining of the system.
In the context of global integration, the banking system cannot wait further. It must be solidified and operate according to international conventions and standards.
In recent years, improving transport infrastructure with modern highways has attracted a number of foreign investors to the industrial sector in many provinces. It has also created more opportunities for development in those provinces.
8 months ago, this Korean business invested $100 million to open a manufacturing plant in Vĩnh Phúc province.
It only takes a few minutes for our flight trucks to reach a highway. This is why we chose this location.
After Cầu Giẽ Ninh Bình Highway began operation, Hà Nam province became an attractive place for investors. In 2015 alone, more than 70 investment projects sprung up in Hà Nam.
Our success in improving road infrastructure has made a foundation for Hà Nam to develop. So far, we have built 8 industrial areas, and the revenue budget has increased fourfold.
In Vĩnh Phúc province, since the Nội Bài-Lào Cai highway came into use, travel time has been shortened. That is why more and more businesses have come to this province. To date, Vĩnh Phúc has hosted nearly 800 projects with a capital of up to $3 billion.
Previously, with National Highway 2, it took 1 hour to travel from Nội Bài Airport to Vĩnh Phúc province. But now, with the new expressway, it takes only 20 minutes.
Improving road infrastructure has attracted a range of foreign investors. This has brought favorable conditions and opportunities for developing industrial zones, as well as created job opportunities for many workers.
Consumer goods from Thailand are favored by Vietnamese people thanks to their quality and reasonable prices. With the ASEAN Economic Community newly established, Vietnamese consumer goods will soon face fierce competition from regional countries, including Thailand. So what can Vietnamese enterprises do to deal with the situation? The following report has more.
Chibao Fragrances Company joins the Made in Thailand Outlet 2016 fair as a partner of a Thai business in Vietnam. The company has been extracting and distributing fragrances and essential oils in Vietnam for 4 years using Thai technology. This cooperation has helped Chibao Company gain much experience in doing business from its Thai partner.
Our Thai partner had shared with us production and packaging techniques and given instructions on how to introduce the products to customers. The most impressive thing I've learned is their sincerity in dealing with customers.
Finding partners is the goal of most Thai enterprises attending Made in Thailand Outlet 2016 exhibition, which is joined by 120 Thai businesses in the fields of food and beverages, textiles, cosmetics, and so on. Thai enterprises are well known for their capacity in manufacturing industries, especially processing food and agricultural products. Moreover, Thai companies are very welcome to cooperate.
This is the first time I brought my products to Vietnam. I'm quite interested in Vietnamese market and I want to find Vietnamese partners. I want to invite them to visit my company in Thailand to explore cooperation potentials.
The first thing is the cooperation. This is very important because we have to accept that in ASEAN country we have very similar products. We could not compete with each other. We will not success if we compete with each other. But cooperation is the heart that we should join hands and go together in the world market.
Minister Councillor Pacharakoon also said Vietnam had great potentials in agricultural products, but still lacked a little bit technology. This has significantly affected the values of Vietnamese products. To improve this situation, Vietnamese enterprises should promote cooperation with foreign partners in the coming years.
In 2016, the two countries will celebrate 40 years of establishing diplomatic relations, and a lot of trade and investment promotion activities will be organized. This exhibition is the kick-off of those activities.
Thailand is now the largest trade partner of Vietnam among ASEAN countries. The ASEAN Economic Community, or AEC, established on December 31, 2015, is expected to boost free flows of goods soon. Currently, Vietnam is suffering a trade deficit in doing business with Thailand. For the first 11 months of 2015, Vietnamese exports to Thailand reached $3 billion, while imports value stayed at $10.5 billion.
Vietnamese coffee has not met the requirements of foreign importers, leading to low prices and low competitiveness. In order to improve its competitiveness in the world market, sustainable production will prove a key solution for farmers in the Central Highlands.
Farmers of the Yakit Cooperative in Kumaga District, Dak Lak Province, have applied sustainable coffee production since 2011. They have received training in planting, harvesting and drying coffee based on clean and eco-friendly standards.
During the production process, inorganic waste must be collected while organic waste is kept as fertilizer. Farmers should grow other kinds of plants to create shade for the coffee plants.
Võ Mạnh Tươi grows 2 hectares of coffee, applying FLO standards. Caring and fertilizing are based on seasonal conditions and the weather. This has saved about 15% of fertilizer costs, while productivity remains stable.
With this method, farmers can apply modern technologies, thereby increasing productivity. The prices are also higher.
There are currently 97 households growing 180 hectares of coffee in the cooperative. The cooperative has also invested in a 15-ton capacity processing plant. Thanks to changes in growing and processing method, prices have been increased.
Prices increased by 9 cents per kilogram of coffee beans. The European Consumer Organization also gave Vietnamese coffee producers a bonus, which is approximately to 40 cents per kilogram.
The success of Yakit Cooperative shows that sustainable production is crucial to increasing coffee value.
Coming up next on BTV News, Vita reporter interviews president of the Vietnam-Cambodia Friendship Association to learn about Cambodian success in fighting Khmer Rouge with Vietnam's help. Let's learn more about the journey of living as one should documentary and the story of kindness that it has carried over the past 30 years.
Exotic Vietnam is an intriguing blend of many charms. This land is where all manner of stunning landscapes await like a visual feast, rivaled only by the beauty of its people and their abundantly rich tradition and culture. Here is where you can relive the past in richest color or live it up in the bright lights of the big city. With so much more to offer, Vietnam is simply unforgettable.
Welcome back to VTV News, brought to you live from Hanoi. Cambodia marked the 37th anniversary of the historic victory against the Khmer Rouge regime in Phnom Penh on January 7th. The event saw the participation of diplomatic representatives and international organizations in Phnom Penh. Delivering a speech at the celebration, Cambodian President and Prime Minister Hun Sen said the ceremony was held to commemorate the Cambodian soldiers and patriotic citizens who sacrificed their lives to save the country from genocide. He noted the country was grateful for the great support provided by Vietnamese soldiers during the conflict. Hun Sen recalled the past and talked about Cambodians who survived the mass killing and then gathered to fight against the Pol Pot-led regime. The victory sealed on January 7, 1979, marked Cambodia's escape from the darkest period in the country's history to step into a new era of independence, freedom, democracy, and social progress. Hun Sen went on to highlight the nation's achievements recorded over the past 37 years in stabilizing political situation, ensuring security, and boosting local economy. Income per capita is expected to hit $1,325 in 2016, and the Asia Development Bank has forecasted 7.2% GDP growth for Cambodia in 2016. January 7, 1979 marked a milestone event for Cambodian people and also many Vietnamese. On this day, Cambodian soldiers successfully fought the Pol Pot's Khmer Rouge forces with the help of Vietnamese troops. On the occasion of celebrating 37th anniversary of this event, we talked with Mr. Vũ Mao, president of Vietnam-Cambodian Friendship Association, and understand more about the historical background and significance of the events.
January the 7th in 1979 marks a historic event for Cambodian people. Could you tell us more about the reason and significance of this event?
The Pol Pot Khmer Rouge regime was notorious for their brutality, in which they killed thousands of Cambodian and Vietnamese people. The Cambodian people then began a large-scale insurgency against the Foxes. Due to their insufficient resources at that time, they called for the support from the Vietnamese people. I have met Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Sen several times. During those talks, he appreciated the deep understanding and timely support provided by the Vietnamese people during Cambodia's fierce struggle. Thanks to the help and cooperation between the two peoples, the Cambodian people won a glorious victory against Khmer Rouge regime. After some initial success has been achieved, an international conference was held to discuss solutions to the Cambodia's problems, and Vietnam was the most active member involved in the Paris Agreement, contributing to figuring out a final agreement for the Cambodian people. We contributed to the independence and sovereignty of the Cambodian people. We profoundly understand what they needed, which was a hope for a democratic country.
As the president of the Vietnam-Cambodia Friendship Association, what are the roles of the association in boosting Vietnam-Cambodia relations?
It has been 40 years since the Vietnam-Cambodia Friendship Association was established. The association has strengthened solidarity of the people between the two countries, especially in border activities. And the two countries' friendship must be nurtured by its peoples, with young people being the leading factor. This reminds me of myself 32 years ago, when I was elected as the chairman of the Vietnam-Cambodia Friendship Association. At that time, I was also the first secretary in the Ho Chi Minh Communist Youth Union, and I hope that in the coming time, all members of the Youth Union will take their own actions to maintain and develop the friendship between the two countries.
Thank you for the interview.
4 kidneys, 2 corneas, and a piece of liver from 2 brain-dead bodies from stroke and accidents have helped save the lives of 7 people. Dr. Dư Thị Ngọc Thu, head of the organ coordinating unit of Chợ Rẫy Hospital in Ho Chi Minh City, said 6 patients have been discharged from the hospital while the liver transplant patient was still being monitored. The organ donors are 2 brain-dead men in Ho Chi Minh City. Shortly following agreement from their families, the organs were removed from transplantation. Representatives from Chợ Rẫy Hospital 7 operations using donated organs were completed. Thanks to the donation of organs, the doctors were able to preserve or restore the sight of 23 people. In other news, around 4,000 bridges will be built to facilitate the travel and livelihoods of ethnic groups across the country by 2020. This is part of a government program for the period from 2014 to 2020. The program, worth nearly $337 million, is being implemented in 5,237 communes in 450 districts across 50 provinces and cities. In the first phase, from 2014 to 2015, 186 bridges were built in 28 mountainous provinces throughout the nation, at a cost of $41 million. Phase 2 will be subsidized by Official Development Assistance, or ODA, local budgets, and social resources. Living as One Should is a documentary by filmmaker Trần Văn Thủy and also one of his most distinguished productions. As January 7 also marks the 30-year anniversary of its premiere, let's now learn more about the journey of this documentary and the story of kindness that it has carried over the past 30 years.
These are some extracts from the film Living as One Should. The film won the Silver Dove Award at the Leipzig International Film Festival in 1988. The old footage has been screened at 100 seminars and film festivals in different continents. Its lessons remain valuable today.
Physical things make up only a small part of human life, but it's relationships that create society's goodness. It is also the core values for people living in any time. Vietnamese people have gone through the wars, and they deeply understand the values of a good society made possible by the sacrifices of generations of people.
On the occasion to celebrate the 30th anniversary of its debut, the film has been screened at many places in the country. Trần Văn Thủy had a chance to talk with the Da Nang Filmmakers Association about the joys and troubles he experienced during his career in an exchange held in the coastal city as part of events to mark the anniversary.
Although the film has been screened for 30 years, I'm still deeply moved when watching it. It depicts different stories of people, and through the footage, personal relationships are emphasized. Despite the darkest of times, people still find their own ways to love each other.
I so admire director Trần Văn Thủy for bravely showing his thoughts, which was considered unfamiliar at that time. Some of its content still remain valuable. It's the story of kindness. It is people's love, their hopes and their kindness through the darkest times.
These two audience members, one who experienced war, while the other is a young audience who grows up in peace. Both are inspired by the human values offered by the documentary. It is a story that never gets old.
An exhibition opened in Ho Chi Minh City on January 7, displaying maps and other documents on Vietnam's sovereignty over the Paracel and Spratly archipelagos. The event has been sponsored by the High Command of Military Zone 7. The exhibited materials are written in classical Chinese, Nom, Vietnamese and French, and affirm Vietnam's sovereignty over the two archipelagos. The images, documents and relevant items were collected from 45 exhibitions held in 31 provinces, 9 islands and 5 army units throughout the country. The event will run until January 21st. And VTV News will now continue with the weather updates. The weather updates wrap up this live edition of VTV News. Thank you very much for watching. Feel free to log on to vtv4.vn or youtube.com/vtv4go for more news and updates. Goodbye for now.